Welcome to Lifestyle with D. Now, today we are honored to have one lady who has been named one of Kenya's top 40 women under 40 for several years and has been listed on the Forbes top 20 youngest power women in Africa. And most recently, she was named amongst the young global leaders of by the World Economic Forum, and we're honored to have Isis Madison
Thank you.
joining us today on the topic of pregnancy and lifestyle on the same. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Yes.
Yeah.
So before we start on Mom's Village and all that we are going to talk about today, probably you can tell us who is Isis Madison.
Who am I? Let's see. How do I think of myself? I think of myself as a kind of an African leader. I certainly have done a lot in business across the continent, in technology, in media, and most recently starting my own businesses. So I think of myself as an entrepreneur, and I think of myself as a mother, as a very new mother. And so those are kind of the different things that combine who I think I am. And I'm a very strong Pan-Africanist, so I love everything about the continent, and I love growing businesses and traveling and just ever optimistic, no matter some of the day-to-day challenges in our countries. But that's kind of, in essence, who I think of myself as.
Wow. You have been named top 40 and under 40. How did you manage? What made you to get there?
That's a good question. So I was one of the very first list of top 40 under 40 in Kenya. And I learned later that a client of mine had recommended me. So that was great because it was a good indication of the work that I was doing for them. And at the time I was working at MTV and had just transitioning to Google. So I was and I think it was a great honor, and I think it's a good list.
Okay, let's talk about Mom's Village. How did you start that, and why?
Sure. So leading from my background in media and technology, I started Mom's Village last year, a year ago, because I felt there was as more and more women are coming online and looking for information towards pregnancy, early motherhood, they were also having less support from maybe some of the traditional channels in a village. So even the name is to reflect an online village. So you're kind of moving away from, as Africa urbanizes, people are moving away from a lot of the support networks that they had. And so part of that is looking for information around health and parenting in the early stages of pregnancy to early motherhood. And so this was the inspiration to create something that was purely online, and that really reflected the modern, more urbanized pregnant woman and mom, and so here in Kenya.
Wow. Have you gotten enough response from new mothers, people who want to learn more about that?
Yes, we have. So a lot of the content on the site, and what we're trying to build is a lot of articles, so both from health professionals as well as real moms, because that's as important as an expert, as well as resources, things like guides around different topics, and our audience. We probably reach 20,000 moms in a month just on the site. They really love the localized feel of the content, so they can go and read and know the examples and all of that is grounded in the local experience. So all the contributors are from here, and so people really love that. So the response has been great.
Okay. Well, you have interacted with so many mothers as well. So let's get to the actual topic for today, which is pregnancy and a lifestyle of a new mother. And you could probably tell us, because there's so many people who probably ask you so many questions. What is one of them that people keep asking as a new mother, or if they wanted or did not want to be pregnant? What are some of the questions that they ask?
So there's a lot of questions. I mean, and certainly start from the signs of pregnancy. So how do I know that I'm pregnant? And once it's been established, then it's like, now what do I do, right? And so what we try to do is have content that talks about, okay, you should definitely confirm that you're pregnant. You should get a test, and then you should start prenatal care. And so a lot of the prenatal care will ensure that there is a health provider who's a midwife or somebody who is guiding you along the pregnancy, and you're having regular health check-ins. But what you can do with online content is have the weeks of pregnancy. So we developed weeks of pregnancy that you can receive by email or just read on the site that tell you exactly what's happening each week to the baby, to your body, suggestions on local resources of where to find a doctor, etc. And we find that because there's, you can be up to 42 weeks plus of pregnancy, that looking at each week can help you understand what's happening, and that answers a lot of the questions. And even though you're in 3 trimesters, it actually is week by week is how the changes typically happen. So that's where a lot of the questions get answered. I think that a lot of other questions really, is this normal? That's a big one. Like, is this normal? Is what I'm experiencing normal? And especially for first-time pregnancies, because you don't really know what to expect. So it's just affirmation that something's normal, or to know it's not normal, that you need to seek assistance. That tends to be the major questions throughout pregnancy.
Yeah. For those who are, for new mothers who want to get pregnant, what is the importance of actually eating right when before conceiving?
That is a really good question. I think one that typically sometimes it's harder to know also how quickly or not you might get pregnant. I think really good nutrition, I think, is important for everybody, and it's extremely important to have a balanced diet that is as healthy as possible. And we have a lot of tips in terms of pregnancy or pre-pregnancy feeding guides for moms that's developed by nutritionists, but some specific things would be also around the supplements that you take. So folic acid itself is a really important one that when you're trying to conceive that you should have, and then once you do conceive, prenatal vitamins have folic acid plus many other things. And it's just to ensure that if you have any gaps in your diet, that the supplements will ensure that it's as well-rounded as possible. But having a balance, making sure that you're not eating a lot of processed foods, and and that's also to help set the foundation for a very healthy pregnancy as well.
Have you had mothers, for example, who have stayed for a couple of months before they actually realized they were pregnant, and then probably like at the 6th month they're like, oh my gosh, I'm pregnant?
Yes. I mean, it's funny. I used to never believe those stories. I always thought people made them up, and then I met people like that who were very well educated, who literally said, I just didn't know until I was 5 months pregnant. And I think one of the reasons is that people's pregnancies are very different. So there's what the movies portray, and that you're always tired and hungry, and some people are not. Like some people, particularly in the first trimester, where a lot of people are very tired and very hungry, some are not at all.
Okay. So the lifestyle of a pregnant woman, you're 3 months pregnant, how is it that can you just carry out a normal lifestyle and still be healthy in terms of taking care of your pregnancy, so that the baby is not exposed to any sort of dangers?
Yeah, I think that this is where it is important, very important to have prenatal care, because everyone's situation is unique to their own, what was their lifestyle before, right? So it's often advised that women exercise, for example, when they're pregnant. Now, if you never exercised before, I don't think starting when you're pregnant is the best idea, but for an average, let's say, person who's relatively active, there's certainly recommendations around certain types of exercise. So whether it's prenatal yoga, which is also a specific, and there's many prenatal yoga instructors in Nairobi, whether it's, so it's specifically tailored to being pregnant, whether it's walking or swimming. Those are very low impact, healthy ways to stay fit, but it really has to be through the guidance of your health professional in case you have any extenuating circumstances, unless perhaps you're an older mom and then you want to just be careful. But for the most part, it shouldn't stop and unless you start having complications, it shouldn't stop the life that you've already been leading. I think you just don't want to do anything extreme. You don't want to go into extreme diet. This is not the time for like the kale diet, or I mean, you probably just don't want to do anything kind of extreme that you've never done before, because why do it when you're pregnant? That just seems unnecessary risk.
Would you compare the urban pregnant woman to someone in the rural area?
How would you compare?
Yeah.
I think the main difference is probably how sedentary the urban life is. I've personally been always active, and I'm pleased to see more and more people active in Nairobi, and you can see it, you can feel it, you can see it. People are more conscious, but I think you have to do a lot more to not be sedentary, to not be sitting in a matatu, to not be sitting in traffic, whereas you're going to be, you know, walking a lot more in a rural area, probably depending on what you do, probably have a bit more physical activity in the work that you do, and there's a lot less of that here. So I think that's where there's a lot of research showing that sitting is the new smoking. Like it's so bad for you, you know. So I think that's the challenge for the urban lifestyle, because we live in Nairobi, we sit in traffic, we can't not do that, right?
But that sitting the whole time.
Yeah, so just trying to find habits where you can, you know, just take the opportunities to walk, even if it's short. You know, take the stair. You know, they say don't take the stairs instead of the lift when you're pregnant. It depends on how far along you are. But those kinds of things are things to be aware of, and I think the differences between rural and urban.
Now back to like mom's village. How does it work? Like, where do you get these mothers from? Which target? Who are you target? How do you target them?
Sure.
Yeah.
That's a really great question. So Mom's Village is primarily a website, and we get users who are searching for information on the internet. They might be doing a search on Google or Yahoo, and we'll find our content and come there. And then we'll also proactively, we use social media quite a lot. So we use Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube. I mean, many of the different channels to reach moms and engage with them, and also do we test some offline stuff as well, like a health expert event to engage people in person. But those are the channels in which we primarily engage the audience and bring users to the website.
So the mothers are new mothers, and also someone who's probably wanting to be pregnant?
Yeah, so it's a lot of pregnant women and new mothers, and that's where a lot of the content is tailored towards. We also, because we find that's where people need a lot of information. Now, when you get past the child's maybe age of 5, the needs are a bit different. So you're not looking for health content every day, like you did when you were pregnant, but you're looking for activities for your kids. So those are some things we do on the site. We have listings of family events and events for women, you know, like Tinga Tinga that had just happened, things like that, so that someone has a place to see really great stuff happening, activities and classes that are for kids or for themselves. So we find that that's what people who have older kids are mainly looking for, or things that are milestone driven. So how do you deal with technology and your kids, or social media and your kids? Those would be the topics that they're interested in, because they've hit a challenge at a particular time.
Okay, with the experience that you've had with mothers, you probably know some of the challenges as a pregnant woman someone goes through. What are some of the things that a pregnant woman should avoid in the extreme?
In the extreme. Yeah. Certainly. I think certainly in the extreme is alcohol. And that has very clearly been established as harmful. Smoking. I think that even goes without saying. And then those are things, and you'll find that even women I know who were smokers, they found it not too hard to quit. I mean, and actually, surprisingly, you think that we might have been a lifelong smoker 10 years. I've been impressed at how quickly people are able to quit when they find that they're pregnant. The best motivator. But there are conflicting studies about alcohol in terms of very small moderation. And so those things, you know, there's always some studying saying one or the other, but I think avoiding it is probably the best.
Okay. Before we take a break, well, I would love to know, you know, the pregnant women, they enjoy their pregnancy, and but the scary part is, oh my God, I'm about to give birth. Have you had people who are really scared of actually giving birth? Because sometimes you'll find cases of a woman is in the labor pains fast, the cervix won't open and they'll have to go through a cesarean, things like that. Have you heard of such cases?
You know, I mean, there's a lot of anxiety. Some women have a lot of anxiety about birth. I think, and that a lot of that is some of the doulas will talk about the fact that your first idea of what birth is will probably come from your mother and whatever she told you. And so you'll have that ingrained. And so whether it was positive or a challenge, that'll be your fundamental view. But then you'll be exposed to media every day. And a lot of the portrayal of birth is screaming and it's always chaos, right? Like, it's never just gentle, and it actually runs the spectrum. There are the emergency CSs, there are people who have painless births, and it can be like, people may not believe that, like, because the media never portrays that. It's always
it's so painful.
It always happens fast, and there's drama, and everyone's screaming, and so I think that perpetuates the anxiety of what can happen. And then I think the important thing is just to remember that humans have been here for a long time. We know how to do this. We know how to do this. Yeah. So.
All right. We'll be taking a short break. We're talking to Isis Madison, but we'll be right back with more on lifestyle. Welcome back to Lifestyle with Dee. Now we are talking about the lifestyle of a pregnant woman, and Isis Madison here from Mom's Village is helping us get to know more about that. Thank you for staying with us. And we're talking about the challenges of a pregnant woman, what they should or not do. But I want to know, what is the importance of the role of a husband or a man throughout the pregnancy and probably after?
Okay. Yes. I love that question. I think particularly because we have a lot of dads who read our content and talk about being more involved. Yes. So I'm definitely seeing the increasing involvement of dads actively. And it's not so much for the young urban dad. Yes. Wait till the child is 3 and then I can start talking to them, So what we're seeing is, and what I think, from what I see, it was great for the dad's role is, certainly being a partner throughout, and kind of going to the key appointments. I think that's important, especially early on, to just start to learn about what's coming up, making sure that you also understand what's happening, and so that you can be informed, and then also to do a lot of the fun stuff in terms of the naming, thinking about the names, planning for the things that you might need to buy, maybe we're talking about, there's a trend in the baby moon, so you go away somewhere before the baby comes because your life is going to change so much after, so you do some kind of holiday, plan around that, and I think that, and I think also being flexible, because it is true that there are so many changes, and mood swings can affect people, exactly. And so and the hormonal changes. The
husband needs to understand.
Yeah, and I'll give you an example. For me, I used to love popcorn, and then one day I came home and I was like, "Why would you be making that?" Because it smelled horrible, because it made me nauseous. And he's like, "But you love popcorn." I'm like, "No, I hate it." Stop opening all the windows, and then I realized how crazy I was being. But it's just a physical repulsion to. So he loves to tell that story because he's like. So I think these things do happen, and then I think also, I think certainly for the birth, what I've seen is a lot more men participating, being there at the birth, might be there when, whether it's, and to really be that partner. Yes. And I think some women want that, some men want that, some others it's kind of a personal choice. And then afterwards, certainly, again, just being there for those early stages where life is so different.
Yeah, and I think also women should play a part in, informing their men just before they get pregnant that this is how it works during the trimesters as well. Yes. So this issue of sometimes something goes wrong probably, and a woman has a miscarriage. With Mom's Village, have you had mothers who have gone through that, and probably one of the reasons, you can share the reason?
There's many different reasons for miscarriage, and we have, I'll talk about a few things that we've done with Mom's Village around miscarriage. So we did have a kind of expert conversation on Twitter, a Twitter chat about miscarriage, with a woman who runs a blog called Still a Mom, and many of the people in that conversation were either sharing personal stories or knowing about other people. So I think it was a good conversation to just both share and get some expert insights from a top gynecologist. There's also another woman, we're actually writing a story next week about her, who had several miscarriages, and then she had was one of our first users, and then she had a baby who passed away early, who had heart problems. And so a year ago we met her after she'd just gone through this loss. And today she's had another baby who's very healthy. So we're writing a beautiful story. I mean, it's just an amazing story of triumph over adversity around that.
Okay. Yeah. And when someone, a new mother gives birth, what are the things that they should do to avoid, taking your baby back to hospital because they're sick, from suffering from something? What are some of the things
that you can do? That is a really good question. The key things are certainly, that first 3 months of the baby's life are so important that you have the postnatal checkups. Yes. I mean, you need to have a health professional, whether it's a pediatrician, in a clinic, or possibly a midwife, that are having those checkups. Those are extremely important, because anything that, and typically those checkups are already done in the hospital, but in the weeks and the months following, because early detection is always the best thing, no matter what the case of something might be. And the other thing that's been shown is that breastfeeding has been shown to really prevent a lot of illnesses. So breastfed babies tend to get sick less, and so that's something that it's widely encouraged in Kenya, and something that is scientific proof behind the value of that, and it tends to keep kids out of the doctor's office.
Yeah. How would you advise these mothers who feel that breastfeeding is not very well? They'll make their boobs saggy and all that. They're feeling very urban to breastfeed their babies. How would you advise that?
The truth of the matter is, your body changes so much when you're pregnant, and so the change back again is you might have that whether you breastfeed or not. Like let's just be real, right? So that might happen to you anyway, because they're changing. I don't know enough about, is it dramatically different if you don't breastfeed or not. We should do an article about that. But I think that there's also, I think things are changing. Some people feel that you can breastfeed anywhere in Nairobi and not feel uncomfortable, but some people are like, oh, I can't really in church, or I can't here, or and so those are some of the discussions that are interesting to have about, it's widely accepted across most of Africa, and a lot of the stories in the West of moms fighting for breastfeeding, being able to breastfeed in public. People don't seem to have those challenges here, but you're right that in terms of attitudinal shifts, especially not only just about cosmetic things, but also practical things about going back to work. I mean, that's a very real, because the way milk supply works is supply and demand. So if there's not as much demand either from pumping or from the baby nursing, then the supply starts to drop, and that becomes harder when you're back in your workplace. It's just
All right. Just before we wrap up the show, we really want to know, when I get pregnant after I give birth to my baby, is it possible for me to lose back, to get back my body? Because I think that's something many women are worried about.
That's a big question. I'm the worst person to ask, because I think I'm smaller. I'm smaller. I'm smaller. So losing baby weight is a big question. I think that my general view is that people have to be realistic about who they were before they had a baby.
Yes.
And were they active, or did they stop being active when they left school? And so just to be realistic, I mean, there's some things that say give yourself 9 months, I don't know, as much time as you were pregnant after to get, don't be unrealistic. I think some of the things that are important is to just think about how do you build healthy habits now? And things have changed. You're busier. You're not going to have as much time as you did before, but think creatively in what works well for you and test different things, but not to be unrealistic. That if you never ran, if you never swam for like 15 years, for 10 years.
You want to do.
And now after the baby, you expect it to, like,
Yes.
I just don't think that's realistic.
And also, some
That
people
was
say
there.
it depends on your body as well.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does it, like, from, well, I think it's from what you're saying,
Yeah.
the way you've always,
Yeah.
taken care of your body, but the genes are also important.
I think there's genetics, disposition, and also diet. Sorry, I mean,
Yes.
you should not forget about that, because it's not just about fitness, but also about continuing to have a balanced diet.
Exactly.
And then, breastfeeding does take, for people breastfeeding takes a lot of calories.
Yeah.
So that's another way. I mean, a lot of people say they feel like they slim down from breastfeeding.
Yes, from breastfeeding.
Now, after you start breastfeeding, do you are you taking as much in? And I think that people have to just be conscious of really how their body works. Are they reactive? If they eat a lot of food. I mean, you can get a sense of if diet matters more than activity, or
Yes.
what combination works well for you. So it's kind of finding that balance.
Yeah. Okay. So finally, just give someone who wants to get pregnant or who is pregnant, just your piece of advice.
Piece of advice.
Yeah.
I think just don't be too anxious. I think people tend to be anxious, and just really know that it's going to be a unique experience. And so you'll read a lot of stuff, but ultimately you're going to have your own experience. So just remember that. And if you're feeling well and you're getting checked up, then that's great. Like, don't worry too much, and just kind of let it unfold, I think.
Okay. All right. So we've had it from Isis Madison. Thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much for sharing so much on Mom's Village and what you are doing for the women.
Thank you.
I think you are really helping the women up there. Yeah. And well, that has been Lifestyle with Dee. Thank you for staying tuned.
Yeah.
Kindly send your feedback on our SMS line 20058 and my Twitter handle @DDMyers.